by Eleanor Levy. Now, Eleanor's been with the suburb for many, many years, I think is correct. So many years. And I would say to you that Eleanor actually, I've been a friend of Eleanor's for quite a long time, and she organized a conversation with me years ago, which set the wheels in motion for me eventually taking over the chair. So I think I say thank you to Eleanor. I think I say, but today we're talking about Charlemagne, warrior and architect of Europe. A formidable warrior and devout Christian king, Charlemagne expanded his empire relentlessly to fighting to unite lands and eradicate paganism. Crowned the first holy emperor in 801, his reign brought stability, earning him the title Father of Europe. Despite being illiterate, he fostered a cultural and intellectual revival, the Carolingian Renaissance, establishing a renowned court, promoting education, and overseeing the creation of historical works and manuscripts. His legacy endures, inspiring myths and admiration for centuries. It's going to be a really good and interesting talk. So Eleanor earned a history degree from UCL after studying at the Open University, and she spent 20 years at Regent's College working with American undergraduates on their semester abroad program. Now a very active member of HGSU 3A, she runs 3 groups from home, combining presentations, tutorials, and field trips. Passionate about adult education, she finds it both rewarding and stimulating, appreciating the fresh perspectives participants bring to each session. And she is one of our really very popular leaders. So may I say welcome to Eleanor Levy.
Now, sorry, this is the point at which Simon was going to rush up and turn me on, but he's done that, so I don't know. Do you know who, is this anybody's? Oh, I'll just leave that. Okay. Yeah, that's right. I think a lot of us have heard of Charlemagne, but not really know much about him. And he was a man of great opposites, which is why I've twinned him with a Rubik cube with conundrum. And I hope this presentation will stimulate us to consider the 2 very different sides of him. And at the end of the presentation, there's just a little postscript which associates him with English history, but we're not there yet. So, right, this was basically, Charlemagne was France. I mean, that was what we would know today. That was the territory that he ruled over. Sorry, a minute. So, if we look at the first, sorry. So, the orange-coloured land there is the size of his kingdom, or the Frankish kingdom, when he took over. And this, in green, and you'll see that it's gone right down into Italy, almost to Rome, was the size of the territory when he died. So he was very, very expansive, and he was an absolute devoted Christian warrior. That was his, one of his main drivers. And I don't know if you can see actually any names on that, but if you can see it, you'll see the name Clovis, probably just up in the, I don't know, up in the northeast, up there. And this is Clovis, And the importance of Clovis was he was the first Christian leader of France, effectively. And there you've got an illustration of him being baptized. It was a really massive thing to have people or leaders taking up Christianity, because they then brought their whole tribe with them. I mean, it wasn't just a personal thing, it became a national thing. And these are some coins that were minted to celebrate Clovis. I gather it was his wife. It's rather funny. He did what his wife told him to do. So she apparently thought that he should convert, and sure enough, he converted. So those coins show Clovis and Clotilda, I think her name was, once they had converted. Now, one of the main issues in Europe at the time, so we're now talking 9th century, was the spread of Islam, because the Islamic State were also expansionist. Everybody was expansionist, and this raised great anxiety amongst Christian leaders. So containing Islam was really number one on your list of foreign policy. And this guy is Charles Martel, and he won a very important victory at the Battle of Tours, Tours, as in France, which stopped Islam spreading beyond Iberia. So they were really about to sort of take off into mainland Europe, and Charles Martel was the man who stemmed that flow, and you know, that was very important in its day. Here you can see again some maps. So the light green over there is Islam after Muhammad, but here in the other map, the second map, you can see that they were preparing to go forth from Iberia into mainland Europe, and that's what Charles Martel stopped. So the Moors, I mean, Spain and Portugal have been Moorish, we all know that, but it was contained, and that was a very big victory for these very devoted Christians. Right. This is just one of the illustrations of that. I've included it because I just find Islamic illustrations sometimes so gorgeous in their color and their detail, and this is one of them. So this is obviously a battle between Christian and Islamic armies, but I just thought the characterization and the delicacy were really beautiful. Okay, so this is, as I've said, an important victory, the Frankish and Burgundian forces, over the raiding parties of the Caliphate. So Charles is a very important figure for us to consider. Now, this chap, this is going to be rather funny. This fellow is Charles's son, Pepin, and he was known as Pepin the Short. I mean, they often have the most bizarre, you know, fork beard and this and that, but Pepin the Short was the name of Charles' son, and here is how he was illustrated in contemporary times. There he is. Oh. No. Sorry, I'm not doing very well. There he is. As if to, I mean, I don't know, I talk about political correctness. It's bizarre. But they claimed that he was short enough to be the same size as the back of a regular dining room chair. Well, I don't know about that, but certainly that sort of illustrates how he got his nickname. Sorry, here we are. Okay, and Pepin, the short, had 2 sons, and the way it worked in those days, although we'll see this was grossly imperfect, was that you left, the inheritance went to both sons. So Charlemagne and his brother Carloman both inherited the territory when Pepin died. I don't think it takes too much imagination to work out what a fraught situation this leaves everyone. So the next thing, Charlemagne was the older one, Carloman was the younger brother. Yeah, and suddenly Carloman dies of a bad case of sudden death. Well, that's a surprise, isn't it? Charlemagne was enormously ambitious, and there he's got to share his kingdom with his brother, and he's just not going to do it. So Carloman dies, as I say, a bad case of sudden and unexplained death. There we go. But it didn't quite stop there, because Carloman had 2 sons. I mean, this has got shades. I don't want to go into the whole Richard III discussion. We'll be here all night. But it's a somewhat similar situation. So, surprisingly, his sons went missing as well. Bloodthirsty or what? So, in other words, Charlemagne cleared out his brother and his nephews, and that left him as sole ruler of the territory. Sorry. Oh, this is a drawing. I just don't know what to make of it. I don't know what you make of it, whether it's meant to be flattering or quite what, but that is apparently a contemporary drawing of Charlemagne, very, very odd, and it's included in a recent book, a history of Charlemagne by Dame Janet Nelson, who was she's died now, but she was the expert, and she included this contemporary drawing. Just trying to see if I've missed. Yeah, we're going back just for a minute to Carloman's sons, who just disappeared, and they disappeared into this castle, and whatever you think of it, it's got very, very reminiscent shades of the princes in the tower. So the upshot of all these disappearances is that Charlemagne became the sole ruler, king of the Franks. Charlemagne meaning Charles the Great, that's that. And this is his coin next to him that was minted, and this was a triumph for Charlemagne. He was left, to rule on his own. Now, near the territory was the pagan land of Saxony, and Charles was just obsessed with this pagan group of people living next to his land, and he devoted on and off 30 years to fighting the Saxons in order to convert them effectively. So this is Wunderkind on the horseback, that's the leader of the Saxons, and this is a very determined Charlemagne who waged ferocious war against them. So these are just some illustrations. I mean, it really seemed to me the hymn of Onward Christian Soldiers might well apply to this sort of thing. Very similar to the Crusades, which came a bit later, of course, but an absolute obsession of Charlemagne was this Saxon kingdom ruled by Wunderkind. Not managing this very well. As I say, it went on and off for 30 years until eventually, now what? Have I done something awful? Oh, right. Oh, here we are. Okay. So this is a sort of image of Charlemagne in full battle cry. He looks really terrifying. And this is an enormous statue of Wunderkind, who in Saxony is seen as a great heroic leader against Charlemagne's desire to convert the lot of them. And Charlemagne would do anything to forcibly convert the Saxons, so much so that there was a famous coming together, battle, in which he managed, so the rumour has it, sounds a bit inflated to me, but 4,500 Saxon pagans were beheaded in one day. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't one day, but these were very, very bloodthirsty times, and religion was the sort of rationale for this type of behaviour. And this is an image, a clearing of where this terrible battle took place, where all these pagans were beheaded. And needless to say, that really was the end of the Saxon resistance. And in the end, Wunderkind was baptized, and Charlemagne was his godfather. So if you had a situation like this, where out of the blue somebody is baptized, the sort of sponsor, I mean, it's putting a real gloss on it to call Charlemagne here sponsor, he became the godfather, the religious father. So this was one of Charlemagne's main religious victories, was over Saxony. The next thing that happened was Charlemagne was gaining a reputation for being a fearsome warrior, and the Pope of the time wasn't happy that where Rome was situated in Lombardy, that there was a lot of aggression and difficulty. So he invited Charlemagne to invade Italy and secure the Papal States for the Vatican. And being a happy warrior, Charlemagne obliged, and thus he extended his own kingdom, and he became king of the Lombards and secured the papacy. And this is now just an update of the territory at the time. So you've still got the caliphate, but it's more contained after Charles Martel's victory. But you've also got the Byzantine Empire. So under Constantine, Christianity expanded to the west, and those of you who've been to Istanbul will know that it was originally Constantinople and combined both East and West Asia and the Bosphorus states. Thank you. Thanks very much. So the Byzantine Empire was watching Charlemagne with quite bated breath, because they really wanted to be the foremost Christian reality in the area. Okay, so there was a problem with this, and as Charlemagne gained more and more momentum and land, the Byzantines, under the rule of a woman called Irene, who had just happened to be the head of the empire at that time, there was quite a clash, and the feeling was that Charlemagne and Irene should get married. Well, they didn't. So, in other words, the two Christian empires had to live next door to each other, I think rather unhappily. The other thing that was going on at that time was the golden age of the caliphate. They really were absolutely amazing. So this is the man who was at the same time a contemporary of Charlemagne, and the Islamic territories were at peace, and this allowed them to push ahead with the most amazing discoveries and learning and instrument making. This was the image of the Caliph who was contemporary with Charlemagne, and it was known as the Islamic Golden Age. So because they had peace, because they'd been stopped from going further and further in Europe, they turned their thoughts much more towards, if you like, intellectual expansion. And here they are. You can see this is an image with astronomical measuring devices and astrolabe and tremendous intellectual spreading out. Here they are. Again, fantastic illustrations. And this was going along side by side with Charlemagne. And despite the fact that there had been an antagonism between the Christians and the Muslims, Charlemagne was in absolute awe of this golden age of Islam. Here you are, the astrolabe. I mean, so way ahead of their time. And also, the efficiency with which the Islamic states ran their territory was again amazing. Bureaucracy, a postal service, I mean, things which really were unknown at the time. You're talking about 9th century. They were quite ahead, and certainly in medicine, and just generally it was their golden age. And Charlemagne put out feelers of friendship, and this is called the Emperor and the Elephant, because Charlemagne exchanged gifts with the head Muslim, and elephants were sent from Islam to Europe, and then vice versa. I also think, we'll look at Charlemagne after this, that this example of learning and discovery and general sort of intellectual searching made an enormous impression on Charlemagne. It was something which he went on to copy in his own territories. So this is, again, a wonderful illustration, and it's an emissary coming from Charlemagne to the Islamic leader in his tent. I mean, they really are just beautiful, these illustrations. And this is just, again, looking at the amount of land that was under the caliphate. And here, this is Charlemagne receiving a painting of Charlemagne receiving presents from the Islamic world. So it was a sort of, you know, a bromance, I suppose, is what President Trump would call it. But it was a great coming together of two different cultures. And these are some of the gifts that Charlemagne sent across. So beautiful material, wonderfully woven and rich tapestries. Here you go again. I mean, incredible gifts that thankfully have survived, but you can see what the use of dyes were and the brilliant colours that were there. This is another one, and these survive, thankfully, so we've got images of them. Other sort of, another illustration. Here we are. I mean, they're very lustrous fabrics that were being, I think the silk from France, you know, they were using that and weaving it and making it into amazing materials. Here we go, marvelous designs. And then this is, again, Charlemagne receiving presents. I think this one is actually an astrolabe. So what a tremendous sort of cross-fertilization of the two cultures. And elephants, real or carved, is what the Islamic rulers sent across to Charlemagne. So here you've got sort of chess pieces and beautiful ivory carvings. Mostly elephants, but they were really magnificent. And again, we're very lucky that these have been preserved. And this is a jug of some, I mean, it's just so richly decorated, and the workmanship is fantastic. And this, just going back to the Byzantine Empire, which was very nervously watching this dialogue. This is the Empress Irene in Byzantine mosaics. So there's everybody's watching everybody very, very nervously. And then a terrible riot broke out in the Papal States, attacking Leo III, who appealed to Charlemagne to protect him. Now, this absolutely gruesome illustration is what skullduggery existed. If people wanted to scupper someone's chances of being a leader, you tried to blind them. It happened to Edward the Confessor's brother when he came over to try and take the throne of England. And this was the type of thing that was going on against the current Pope in order to replace him. And Charlemagne comes to the rescue. He travels to Rome. He crushed the unruly mob. And in gratitude, Pope Leo III crowned Charlemagne as the Holy Roman Emperor. He was the first person ever to hold the title. Effectively, it was in Germany, it was in Central Europe, and this was an amazingly historic moment. Nothing like this had happened before. And Charlemagne really, really rose to the heights in 800 when this happened. I just love this cartoon of the Pope and Charlemagne. Another bromance, but it just struck me as a really good slide to include. And this is Charlemagne, obviously had a coin minted, because you had to advertise the fact that this had happened. And Aachen, which is on the border of France and Germany, was Charlemagne's destination to build his palace as the Holy Roman Emperor, and also the cathedral. And I believe Aachen today is still flourishing with this, with this history. One of my granddaughters is on a German exchange there. They're very, very proud of Aachen and what was achieved there. So you can see that the Holy Roman Empire is filling up most of Europe. You've got the Byzantine Empire and you've got the Islamic Caliphate. And this is very interesting. This is the double-headed eagle of the Byzantines. And to me, it looked rather eerily familiar. I have a feeling that the Third Reich had double-headed eagles. Well, this was the Byzantine image because it's the eagle facing both to the east and to the west. So this is a Byzantine image to say that Christianity flourished both in the east and the west. Yeah. And preparations were made to crown Charlemagne as the Holy Roman Emperor. And here they are. I think this was still when there was some thought that Irene and Charlemagne might get together. It wasn't to be, but this again is a contemporary illustration of Charlemagne and his sidekick, if you like, Irene, the Byzantium. And then we come on to the coronation, and Charlemagne just appears to have gone over the top in bling. I mean, it's just amazing. So here is the image of him, and this was a statue of himself that he had manufactured in all his opulence. And this really must be the crown of all crowns, isn't it? This is the Holy Roman Emperor's crown. I mean, it's come down to us. I just feel it's a truly magnificent piece of headwear, if you can call it that. And the Bible, which was used at Charlemagne's coronation, we've also got parts of that still, so you can see the sort of opulence. And this is a contemporary illustration of Charlemagne as the Holy Roman Emperor. And this was how it looked. So you can now see that under Charlemagne, you've got effectively Germany, you've got Lombardy, apart from the Papal States, and how he has expanded the territory since he took over. And there is the Aachen Cathedral, Palatinate Chapel, and also the palace, the Holy Roman Emperor's palace. It doesn't actually look that much, I don't think, when you see it. It looks rather tame, but if you have a look at the cathedral, well, that's the outside of the cathedral, you can see how enormously ornate it was, dripping in gold, absolutely sumptuous. Here it is again. There was no expense spared, and we're very lucky this all still survives, considering the warfare that's been going on in Europe for the last 1,000 years. It's just amazing that this still survives. And this was the ceiling. I mean, it's just totally magnificent. And this, which looks actually rather plain in a way, but this was the coronation chair. So it looks a rather snug fit, doesn't it? So you'd climb up these steps, and this was where Charlemagne was crowned the Holy Roman Emperor. And these are paintings, one by Rubens, and the other one, I mean, artists, Renaissance artists, went an absolute bomb on this magnificent event. So we've now got Charlemagne in his new empire, and Charlemagne was illiterate. We're really talking, if you cast your mind back to the beginning of my talk, a really bloodthirsty chap who wouldn't stay out of the saddle, would cheerfully murder anyone who got in his way, and now suddenly he's emperor of Central Europe. Again, some more, sort of rather laudatory medals and pictures. And this was the sort of material that was put out, the PR for Charlemagne. Now, Charlemagne was ashamed that he was illiterate, and he thought that if you slept with a book under your pillow, you would become literate. And this is an illustration, as you can see, of Charlemagne asleep with a book under his pillow, hoping that, he'll wake up in the morning and be able to read and write. Well, what he did do, though, was he set up a court that became the cultural renaissance of Europe. And we're just going to have a look at that now. He got the services of Alcuin, who was at York and had established an amazing library at York, and he agreed to come and be part of Charlemagne's cultural renaissance. Here they are together, and of course Charlemagne needed someone like Alcuin because he couldn't read and write himself. These are stained glass windows which celebrate it. So the one over there is Alcuin and Charlemagne together. This is an image from York showing you Alcuin teaching and running sort of cultural activities in York. And this is the example of the print which they developed. So this is Carolinian minuscule. It became the text that was used absolutely everywhere for writing. It became the absolute standard. So anything, any book, anything that was of any importance in the church anywhere was in this Carolinian minuscule text. Here we've got a sort of close-up of it. It's lowercase, but what an achievement that Charlemagne managed to establish a common literary form and to spread writing in this way. I mean, it's an enormous achievement. And again, these are from the Bible that was used at his coronation. And what Charlemagne wanted to do was to resurrect the classical liberal arts. There were 7 of them that had been in Rome, and at Charlemagne's court, these were revived. So here you can see reading, writing, rhetoric, logic, and it's all written down in the print that Charlemagne developed with Alcuin. These are just more images. Scholars flocked to Charlemagne's court. It was just a cultural, intellectual hub in the center of Europe, and Charlemagne had the resources to spread the word. So he's gone from a really bloodthirsty soldier to somebody who has developed the culture of the time. These are all images of him, and scholars were coming in from left, right, and center for the kudos of being part of his court. Here he is again with teaching, and we've got wonderful illustrations of all this. Here, this is again from the Bible at his coronation. Well, all good things have to come to an end, and Charlemagne, as he was mortal, got ill, and 3 of his sons had been killed in military skirmishes. This is actually Charlemagne's shroud. We've got a part of it. It shows you the luscious fabric that was used for Charlemagne's shroud. This is the sarcophagus in which he was placed, so an alabaster, amazingly carved sarcophagus. And this is in Aachen Cathedral. It really makes you want to go there. This is the golden tomb of Charlemagne in Aachen, in the cathedral there. Only one of Charlemagne's sons survived him. This was Louis, who you can see in the background there. And Louis had 3 sons. And following the tradition, as you know, because Carloman and Charlemagne initially were given the land together, Louis divided up the Holy Roman Empire amongst his 3 sons. So these are Charlemagne's 3 grandsons. And needless to say, there was arguing and discord, and the land was broken up. The actual empire did not remain intact. These 3 grandsons sort of really divided it between themselves. Now, the Holy Roman Empire was at the heart of Europe, and there were several electors scattered around in the countries, and they elected a new emperor when the old one died. And it came to pass in the 16th century that the Habsburg dynasty, the Habsburg dynasty, which was Austria-German, one of their princes became the Holy Roman Emperor. You can see it's quite interesting. The Habsburgs would only marry within their own tribe, a bit like the Egyptian pharaohs, because nobody else was good enough. And there was a physical deformity, which was a lengthened jaw. And this became worse and worse because of so much intermarriage. But in 1527, Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, the Habsburg, had a disastrous foray into Rome, and his troops went mad and sacked Rome. And the year 1527 is very important. It's very important to note that Charles V was the nephew of Queen Catherine of Aragon, who was married to Henry VIII. So these are momentous times, and basically the Holy Roman Emperor took the Pope prisoner. Here they are. There you can see Charles V with the elongated jawline, and this is the Pope who he captured. Just at the moment when Henry VIII decided he didn't want to be married to Catherine of Aragon anymore, and he sent Thomas Wolsey off to the Pope to say, you know, I need this marriage dissolved. But the Pope was the prisoner of Catherine of Aragon's nephew, Charles V, and it was no go in bold letters. And that's how the English Reformation came about. If the Holy Roman Emperor had not had this incident in the Papal States and effectively captured the Pope, made him into a puppet, in all likelihood, Thomas Wolsey would have successfully got a divorce for Henry VIII, and the English Reformation would never have happened, but it just didn't work out that way. So Henry had to break from Rome, and that's how the English Reformation came about. So it was really a bit the long arm of history that with the establishment of the Holy Roman Empire under Charlemagne, eventually this was one of the consequences of it. And here you are. So Henry was not going to let the Catholic Church get in his way, and they weren't going to budge. So it's a real little postscript, but it just allies, you know, just brings the two together to show you how England was affected by events in Europe and the Holy Roman Emperor. Right. I don't know if anyone's got any questions or anything that you'd like to... Oh, there's a few hands. Yeah.
When they divided up the empire, the three grandsons, which one becomes the emperor? Or what are they?
Well, they were feuding, and they were just... They didn't divide up. The emperor was not hereditary. It had to be re-elected. So none of them were the Holy Roman Emperor. It was a standalone, if you like, position. And there were electors in the states around Germany and Austria and Spain, and they elected a new Holy Roman Emperor. So no, it wasn't that the grandsons inherited.
Oh, I see.
It just wasn't like that. So, if you like, it died with Charlemagne and his family, and then went on to other dynasties who were elected.
So why is it divided up? So it was divided up between the grandsons. If you say they're electing a leader...
No, the territories were divided up, and each one ruled over his own territory. But I thought you were asking me whether they inherited the Holy Roman Empire crown, and they didn't. It went back into the melting pot. So they got territory, but the title of Holy Roman Emperor...
Sorry, what would they have been called then as the rulers of those, you don't know?
Kings, you know, the king, the chieftain, something like that. But they didn't have that.
Who has a question? Right, coming over. Alan, hang on.
Could you say something about the formation of the Ottoman Empire and the Battle of Lepanto?
The formation of?
The Ottoman Empire. You spoke about how...
Well, I haven't really researched it enough. I mean, it was a Muslim caliphate, and they were expansionist and sort of clashing continuously with Christian Europe. And there was this battle where Charles Martel prevented them from going further into Europe. It just remained an unholy, you know, sort of situation with the Moors continuously pushing for more land, and the Christians determined to. So if you go like the Alhambra Palace or something, you know, you can see a lot of this in Spain, where the tension between Christianity and Islam was most obvious.
Thank you. And do you feel that history repeats itself? And it is interesting that you spoke about Henry VIII not getting his divorce and the separation from the Roman Church. Does history repeat itself in the form of Brexit?
Sorry, again, I couldn't hear that.
Did history repeat itself in the form of Brexit, another severing of the UK from Europe?
Did you hear that? I'm sorry, it's the microphone.
Was it repeated in the form of Brexit?
Was it repeated in the form of Brexit?
Sorry?
Was it repeated in the form of Brexit? Is it history repeating itself in the form of Brexit?
Oh gosh, goodness me. I don't know, you'll have to ask Macron and Starmer. I don't know, it wasn't like that, it wasn't at all like that.
Not working? Yes, it is working. Okay. Right.
Although it's not directly involved with Charlemagne, the incident of Henry VIII not having married his dead brother's wife, according to Leviticus, that is what had to happen, because you had to continue the line
Yes.
of your brothers of the name. So
Yeah.
where this confusion comes along, I can never understand.
Oh, I see. Well, that's biblical, isn't it? Because that's what Henry VIII said. Anyway, won't go into all that. But it was just such bloodthirsty times. So really, Charlemagne becomes the shining Catholic emperor, had somehow done away with his brother and his brother's sons. They disappeared. They just were not there. And Charlemagne had his own family, and that's how it continued.
The only little excuse that I've heard that the marriage wasn't consummated, and that was the excuse why the Pope said you can't do it. But it is there. It is there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Who exactly was Alcuin?
He was based at York, and he left there about 800. He'd been there for 50 years. He wasn't young. He'd gone into the monastery at York and had been a great educator and built up a magnificent library. And because Charlemagne was illiterate, he sort of encouraged Alcuin to come and join the Carolinian court. And he really developed this form of print and writing. It was down to him. I think what Charlemagne realized was his own shortcomings. I mean, he'd never been educated to be an intellectual, anything like that. So he attracted people to come to his court, and Alcuin was very much on board. He left York and he came over to Charlemagne's court. Was he? English.
Was he English?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if Alcuin was English. Sounds a bit French to me, but I don't know.
Well, sounds Greek to me, anyway. Any other questions? Okay, what an inspiring storytelling journey into a time of history.
Yeah, amazing.
Fascinating.
And amazing that this illiterate, really thug, if you like, who's chopping off the heads of pagans left, right and centre, became the father of European Renaissance and of, the print and the books and the whole thing that went with the establishment of his court was just amazing. So really he had two parts to his life, didn't he?
But you bring the whole time of that history, that journey to life, and your passion and enthusiasm it sparks everybody else's imagination. So thank you very much indeed, Eleanor. Thank you. As a token of our appreciation, can we say thank you yet again?